All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's month of service presentation of title fraud and deed scam prevention. My name is Nia Murray. I am the programs coordinator with Neighborhood Recovery Community Development Corporation, and we are one of the partners in the A Month of Service collaboration. Also included is the City of Houston's Department of Neighborhoods, and on behalf of our presenting partner with Lone Star Legal Aid, we have Mr. Amir Brafui, who's going to be providing you all with the information today about title fraud and deed scams. Also included in our partnership, we have the Earl Carl Institute, Texas Legal Services Center, Houston Volunteer Lawyers, the Harris County Tax Office, and the Harris Central Appraisal District. And together we make up a month of service. And basically, a month of service is the collaboration of all of our organizations coming together on a monthly basis, offering a variety of different workshops, resources, and information to the community relative to asset protection, asset building, community empowerment, and the maintaining of generational wealth. We know that there are a lot of underserved communities that are out there that don't have access to a lot of information, that don't know where to go for available resources. So we decided several years ago to collaborate and pool a lot of our efforts and our initiatives, considering that we do service the same communities, and wanted to try to create a larger impact and get as much information out to the community that we can. So we used to do these sessions in person. However, due to the pandemic several years ago, we've had to resort or convert to the virtual platform, but this has allowed us the opportunity to reach even more people throughout the not only Houston area, but various parts of Harris County, surrounding counties, and across the state of Texas even. So know that the information that does get provided throughout these presentations is relative to the laws throughout the entire state of Texas. So it's not just for City of Houston or for Harris County or anything like that. So know that. Also note that the information that does get presented here is for educational purposes only. It is not to be considered any legal advice. However, if you do find yourself in need of any civil legal assistance, we do encourage you to reach out to our legal service partners like Lone Star Legal Aid for some additional support and more information. However, this is your opportunity that you can also ask questions. Um, Anything that's related to the topic, feel free to ask. But do know that we are in a public setting. We do also broadcast live on our social media platforms. So we ask that you try to keep your questions to be as general as you possibly can, not only to protect your privacy, but also for the simple fact that there are certain questions that Amir cannot answer as they relate to a specific situation. Um, Client, what they call attorney-client privilege. In addition to that, we just don't want all the information kind of getting out there for everybody to have access to. But if you have something to share or what have you, then please feel free to do so. There were a few questions that were sent to us in advance, and I will make sure that those questions do also get addressed. Again, we do want to protect your privacy as best as we possibly can on this public platform. So we will not be giving out your whole name because there's some folks that are joining us from our social media channels as well. I know that that was a concern for some folks that we will not be giving out, your detailed information, your name, and all that kinds of stuff for everybody to have access to. So do feel comfortable about that. But again, today we're here to talk about title fraud and deed scams. This is something that's been going on in a lot of communities for a long period of time, and it is just now, not just, but it's because it's becoming so much more prevalent now, and people have a lot more access to a lot of different information. The word is kind of getting out a little bit, and we want to do our part to protect your generational wealth, or to help you with protecting your generational wealth, your heirs' property, as best as we possibly can. Um, there is an inherited property presentation that we also do that is on the second Thursday of each month. Um, 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 that is on the second Thursday of each month, as it relates to how to protect or how to get ownership of heirs property or inherited property that you've had. We're going to touch on that a little bit as well, but there is a little bit more information that goes along with this presentation, and I'll be happy to include any of our previous recordings if anybody has any questions about that. But Amir will touch on the issues with heirs property that we um, that that as it relates to this. So for those folks that don't really know what title fraud and deed scam is, he's going to give you the definition of that. But what was really heavy on me, and I just want to share this really quick. I had a really close friend of mine whose grandmother's property was basically stolen from her because of some fraud that had actually happened. That somebody produced a faulty death certificate, produced false documents that claimed that this person was the executor of her grandmother's estate. Um, thank God her grandmother is still alive and kicking, but she basically went and sold her property right out from under her and wouldn't have known until somebody showed up at the house trying to get her evicted from her own house, and did a little bit of digging online and saw at the clerk's office that all of these documents had been electronically filed fraudulently, and right now going through all kinds of litigations to make sure that she gets her property back. So it's a long uphill battle, and it really was the driving force also to have me to present this information, because I know if it happened to her, it's been happening to a lot of people. And again, it's a lot of times it's because of the heirs property where people just kind of let things go, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So we're just going to get into it. That's all I want to say. It's a lot. Um, and Amir's going to be providing that information for you guys. So again, feel free to type your question into the chat. If you are joining us on social media, feel free to type your question into the comment section. And we'll again make sure that your questions do get addressed. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our presentation. Mr. Amir Brafui with Lone Star Legal Aid.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to start sharing my screen. While I'm doing that, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Amir Bafrui. I'm an attorney with Lone Star Legal Aid. I've been with Lone Star Legal Aid on and off since about 2012. I specialize in real estate law. Me and my team focus on helping low-income Texas homeowners. I'm based in Harris County, so I'm very well familiar with all the legal issues that can pop up impacting folks' homes here in Harris County. And I hope to educate y'all, provide some legal information today. I don't want to scare y'all, right? The world is a beautiful place. Bad people do bad things. We can empower ourselves with education, legal information. I hope that those of y'all who attend live find this information useful. I try not to waste people's time. And if you know of anybody who may have not been able to attend live, one of the great things about our partnership at Amos is that these are recorded and can be shared from YouTube and their social media pages to make this much more accessible. So I'd hope you'd consider sharing this with your friends and family who may be interested in learning about this very important topic. So today we're going to talk about title fraud and deed scam prevention. Before we jump into that, I wanted to, emphasize a few things that Nia already touched on, but today I'm going to provide legal information, not legal advice. What does that mean? I'm going to tell you what Texas law is. I'm going to tell you what protections exist for people. I'm not going to tell you how to solve your particular situation. If you raise a question where you're asking a very specific question, I'm not going to be able to answer that. And part of that is, one, as a licensed attorney, I'm bound by attorney-client privilege and confidentiality rules. Those are the laws that I have to follow. I can't talk about your legal issue in front of a bunch of people. And two, my contract with Lone Star Legal Aid indicates that I have to first verify that you're eligible for our services before I can provide you with legal advice. Legal advice is, my situation is X, Y, and Z. I can apply the law and tell you exactly what to do. I cannot provide legal advice today. So I hope that doesn't disappoint anybody. I'm not trying to avoid answering your questions, but I have the law to follow and the rules of my employer to follow. So today we're going to talk about legal information. So today our agenda is, first we're going to talk generally about Lone Star Legal Aid for those of you who may not have heard of our nonprofit law firm. We're going to talk about what title fraud and deed scams are in plain English, avoiding lawyer jargon, how to spot common tactics and red flags early, talk about learning practical steps to prevent scams, and knowing what to do and who to call if you're targeted. So first, I'm going to introduce y'all to Lone Star Legal Aid. We're a nonprofit law firm serving low-income Texans in Southeast Texas and parts of East Texas and parts of Central Texas. We protect and advance the civil legal rights of millions of Texans living in poverty. And I want to pause right here because when I use that last word, poverty, a lot of folks think, well, that's not me. Well, I'll give you a couple of phrases. There, but for the grace of God go I. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Because every single one of my clients and every single one of the clients that my colleagues serve thought the exact same thing. And then one of four things happened. I like to call them the 4 Ds, right? Death, disability, disaster, or divorce. If someone passes away or gets divorced, half of their family's income is gone and maybe now they're living in poverty. We live in Houston. We're struck by natural disasters often. If you can't get to work because your home's destroyed or the roads are flooded or your employer's not able to turn the lights on, then you're not able to earn income and you may fall into poverty. And the last is disabled, right there, but for, through no fault of your own, medical issues popped up and you're no longer able to work and now you live on a fixed income. That describes all of my clients. So when you see that legal aid exists to protect and advance the civil legal rights of millions of Texans living in poverty, you know, no one ever wishes to do that. And we exist to help people who, through generally no fault of their own, have found themselves in economic situations where they just need a little bit of help with their legal issues. So a couple of facts about Lone Star Legal Aid. While I'm in Houston and our headquarters is in Houston, we serve 76 counties. We serve basically a third of Texas and 4 counties in Southwest Arkansas. We have 14 offices. I'm going to show y'all where they are located in a few slides. In the third of Texas that we serve, starting in Southeast Texas and Houston, going out to Beaumont, all the way up to Texarkana, parts of Central Texas near Waco and Bryan College Station. There's about 2 million people who qualify for our services. Last year, we were able to help 61,000 of them. So we do the best we possibly can with the resource limitations that we have. People who apply for our services, who are determined eligible for our services, may not be able to get services, which is why presentations like today and providing trusted, vetted legal information, better than Google Lawyer, are so very important because we can't help every single person who contacts us, even if they have a strong case. So who do we help? We don't have any limitations on who we help other than our eligibility requirements. So we help children, veterans, moms, seniors, people with disabilities. Many of our clients face isolation, maybe because of limited literacy. Maybe they live in remote locations where they don't have the ability to drive, or language barriers. Just to illustrate the point I was sharing earlier, Texas, we've got 31 million people who live here now. And there's about 110,000 licensed attorneys, Texas attorneys licensed by the state of Texas. That works out to be about one attorney for every 380 people. But for legal aid attorneys and the population that we serve, there's about one legal aid attorney for every 17,000 eligible people. Put differently, if you're in the greater Houston area and you're thinking about NRG Stadium where the Houston Texans play, like you could fill that thing up with about 70,000 people and there would be 4 legal aid attorneys there. I don't share that to say feel sorry for me. It's legal aid exists to help as many people as possible with their civil legal needs. We're just not able to help every single person because of lack of resources. Again, that illustrates, or that's to further emphasize why presentations like today are so very important, so that people can have the knowledge to be empowered to be able to handle as much as they can on their own or avoid scams in the first place. So our mission is to protect and advance the civil legal rights of millions of Texans living in poverty by providing free advocacy, free legal representation, and community presentations like today to ensure equal access to justice. As I mentioned before, we help people living in 76 counties, 72 of them in Texas, 4 in Southwest Arkansas. We only handle civil legal issues. So if you're facing jail time or fines for breaking the law, that's generally not something legal aid is set up to help with. And we only help folks who are low income. The types of legal issues that we handle generally fall into these categories: consumer, employment law, family law, health law, housing, so fighting evictions, preventing foreclosures, avoiding title scams like we're going to talk about today, juvenile issues, neighborhood problems, public education, financial assistance, and public benefits. We also have special projects to cover a wider and deeper areas of the law for to be responsive to the needs of our community. So if you're interested in applying for services, if seeking out free legal help, you can do so by going to our website, lonestarlegal.org, and applying, submitting an application online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you don't have access to the internet or you prefer to talk to somebody, you're welcome to call Monday through Friday between 8 and 5, 1-800-733-8394. You can also apply at any one of our 14 offices in person. This is a picture of our office in downtown Houston. As I mentioned before, we have 14 offices throughout Greater Houston area, Southeast Texas, Central Texas, and East Texas. We're in Beaumont, Belton, Bryan near College Station, Clute down near Angleton, Conroe just north of Houston. We're on Galveston Island. We have our Houston office. Then moving to East Texas, we also have an office in Longview, in Nacogdoches, Paris, Texas, Texarkana, Tyler, Texas. We're southwest of Houston in Richmond, Texas, and also located in Waco. Another great source of trusted legal information is our social media pages. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I want to really emphasize the information that we put out, that Lone Star Legal Aid puts out, comes from licensed attorneys and experienced case handlers. If you're looking for information on a particular topic, I'd encourage you to check out our channels. Again, if it's criminal law, we're not going to have any information there, but this is going to be way better than, the stuff that you can pull by just Googling something, or these days typing something into ChatGPT. You really don't know what you're getting. But I'm telling you right now, I'm a licensed attorney. What does that mean? I had to go to law school for 3 years. I had to pass 2 exams. Every year I have to recertify and educate myself to stay current on the law. I've been practicing law for almost 13 years. I know what I'm talking about, and I'll tell you when I don't. Whereas stuff that you search for on the internet or things that you might get from AI, the quality control just isn't there. I'm not saying don't educate yourself. I'm saying take this information with a grain of salt and seek out more trusted, vetted legal information through our website and through Lone Star Legal Aid's social media channels. There again, it's our website, www.lonestarlegal.org. So let's get to the main part of our presentation, which is title fraud and deed scam prevention. So foundational, what is title? So we're talking about people's homes. In most states, and definitely in Texas, if you're going to prove that you own your home, you need to have a deed. You might hear me refer to that as a deed or title. This is a recorded document, something that's put in a public record maintained by local government, the county clerk. So there's 254 counties in Texas. So there's 254 clerks in Texas. I may refer to just the Harris County clerk because that's where I work, but the process follows the same way. Whatever county you live in, if you have a deed or some document proving that you own it, you want to make sure that's recorded with your county clerk's office, because those public records are maintained by the government. And in order to verify that you own that land, anyone who's interested in your property, buying it from you, or you're, looking to get a mortgage, are going to look at the chain of title. What does that mean? They're going to look at your piece of paper that says you own it, and then see what is in the chain or linked to it in the chain of all the other pieces of paper in those deed records that link back to your land, your piece of dirt. By making sure that is clear and there's no questions about it, then you are the clear owner of record, or you're the record, you have the deed in your name, and there's no questions that you're the owner of that piece of land. Deed theft and title fraud can throw a monkey wrench into the works there. You can have fake documents that are forged or falsified that are recorded in the deed records. They may work with, a software program to fake a notary stamp or steal someone's notary stamp, or misuse a power of attorney to create these fake documents, right? Bad people do bad things. Start out by stealing a notary stamp or using software to fake a notary stamp. And then they use that to get past the safeguards that the county clerk's offices create. And then they put these documents in the deed records and then do bad things under the authority of those fake documents. The goal is to gain control or ownership of your home. And if you have substantial equity, right, you've paid the house off or the value has gone up, that's the equity that you have in your house. They want to gain control of that too by selling the property. Where can this show up? Again, I am not here to scare you. I'm here to educate you. This can show up when there's a vacant home or vacant land, or maybe a rental home that maybe has sat empty for a while, or maybe someone's gone out of town for a couple of months. Seniors, people who may, just for whatever reason, not have the ability to stay active and up to date on what the comings and goings with their home. Property of recently deceased people, so property that may be going through probate. Again, this often is vacant land as well. Properties with tangled title or heirs property issues. So no one really knows who owns it. The paper trail, that chain of title that I was talking to y'all about earlier, is not clear. We don't know who has the legal right to the land. That's a target. Any home can be targeted, but awareness of this issue is key. These first 4 bullet points are the most common types of targets, but really there's nothing separating them from any other home. So tactics, I touched on a few of those before, but this is what scam tactics can look like. Forged deeds and fake signatures, right? If no one knows what your signature looks like, how are we supposed to tell if it's forged, right? There's some practical considerations there. Bogus or misused notarization. So a bogus is just like someone used AI or some software tool to fake a notary stamp. Or they took someone's notary stamp off the internet and then adjusted it or copy and pasted it, or they stole someone's actual physical notary stamp. And abuse of quitclaim deeds and sham affidavits, right? This is, again, other fancy words for fake fraud paperwork to say that I own your land or I've stolen your land. Other tactics, communication, digital tactics that can be used to further these sorts of scams. Fake emails that seem very authoritative, that seem legitimate. Phone calls from people who are saying that they're some official, that they call and they indicate there's a pressure for you to sign now. If you don't, you're going to lose out on this loan or on this home, on your home. And then if you're going through the process of refinancing or trying to purchase a home, being told, oh, we need to reroute that payment or you need to pay in cash. These are all red flags to look out for to avoid being scammed when it comes to getting a home or holding on to your home. Other things to think about with transactions, the type of scams that can pop up in transactions impacting someone's home. So purchase and sale or refinancing, getting a mortgage, getting a loan, home equity loan. It could be fake sellers listing the property without the owner's consent. So like, I don't want to sell my house, but then I just so happen to see it listed on, har.com. Well, how did that happen? That's a red flag. And then you want to do a little bit of digging. If there's a closing where you're maybe involved, and a closing is when someone is trying to purchase a home or sell a home, and most closings take place 15 to 45 days from signing a contract to give people time to kick the tires, do a little bit of due diligence, do a little bit of background check. If someone's pushing for a faster closing, that's generally another red flag that maybe not everything is on the up and up. The purpose there being less time means minimal background checks, minimal time done on due diligence, really digging into that chain of title to see, are you who you say you are? And do you have the ability to sell this house, to buy this house, to refinance to get a new loan on this house? And then abusing, online or remote notaries or refusing to meet in person. I'm not trying, I fully realize like this presentation's online, it's being recorded. We are not all in the same room. I'm not against remote proceedings or anything like that, but this could be an opportunity to be abused when it comes to purchasing and selling a home. So these are all other types of red flags that look out for and really slow things down to try and figure out exactly what's going on. And am I dealing with someone who's trying to scam me, or is this person legitimate? So other things that get exploited are, public records, right? Ownership of homes, as I talked about in the first one of the first slides, is encouraged to be recorded in the deed records. I could buy a house and not put the deed in the deed records. I just got a piece of paper under the mattress, kept it at home. I'm the owner. If I want everyone in the world to know that I own that piece of house, though, or that piece of land, that house, then I need to put that in the public deed records so that there is no question that I own the home. Well, the flip side of that is scam artists who might target a particular piece of property can see that I, Amir Bafroui, own 123 Main Street. And then if they are interested and motivated in doing so, they can find a way to use that information to say, to create a scam paperwork, such as a deed from me. They already have my name, they have my address, it's part of the public records, to whoever, right? Bad people do bad things. I'm not here to, scare you or teach you anything new on that point, excuse me. But these public records exist for a good reason, but excuse me, bad people can do bad things. So another issue is when someone's going through probate, right? Probate involves the court process, or it involves putting documents in the deed records, both of which are two types of public records. What are public records? They're open to the public. They can be abused, information can be gathered, and information can be manipulated. Again, you're going to hear me say this multiple times. Most of the time, these records exist for a legitimate purpose. You should not fear public records, but bad people will use information to do bad things. One of those bad things is recording fake or fraudulent instruments or documents to create some fake aura of legitimacy. See, I own this piece of property. Here's my piece of paper, and it has a little stamp saying it's been recorded in the deed records. That makes it look legitimate. But just because something's in writing and something in the deed record doesn't mean you should stop digging. We're going to talk about all the different ways to suss out that information. So some more red flags for homeowners. If you're checking your deed records, and we're going to talk about how to do that, and you see unfamiliar documents that are recorded against your property tied to your piece of land, that is something you're going to want to dig into a little bit further and learn more about so you can find out what exactly is going on with your home. If you receive or don't receive a tax bill or a utility bill that you normally get, and you check the records of the tax collector or the water company, and you see that the name has been changed, that's another huge red flag. Someone else is probably claiming to own your home. And you could get unsolicited calls, messages, Facebook messages, text messages, voicemails saying like, "Hey, we bought your house. You need to get out." These could be scam artists just seeing if you'll go. These could be people saying, "We believe we own your home," and they're trying to get you to leave. These are, again, all red flags to say something bad has probably happened and now you need to do something. So I will tell you that there are many professionals that have to deal with real estate, land, people's homes, who are trained to look out for these sorts of things. These are real estate agents, experienced real estate attorneys like myself, title insurance companies who their job is literally to facilitate land changing hands and making sure there's no scams getting done. Some of the scams these companies, these people look out for are inconsistent signatures where it just does not look the same, or you might sign with your middle initial and then don't sign with your middle initial, or you had a maiden name or a different last name and you're signing inconsistently. There's going to be questions there. This is a way to verify someone is claiming who they are. If they're not physically present or producing a driver's license or some proof of why their name changed, that's a huge red flag that these companies are trained to look out for, and I wanted to share with y'all. Buyers and sellers who refuse to meet in person, right? The internet, Zoom, what have you, they're all great, and there are ways to handle buying and selling property fully remotely, but the less there's a word for it. The farther away people are, the more opportunity, the bigger of a gap between the two people that scams can be interjected. And if there's pressures to skip steps, right? I want to go fast. I want this closing to be done quickly. We don't need 30 days. We can get it done in 7. Pressure, fake deadlines, those are all big red flags that title companies, real estate agents, real estate attorneys know to look out for and slow the process down. Not because there's any sort of ego in the way, but because it takes time to make sure that all the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed and there are no scams being perpetuated. And then inconsistent stories about ownership. Oh, yeah, I got this house through my adopted father, or my uncle gave me this power of attorney to handle this sort of thing. Um, if it seems suspicious, ask more questions. These are the keys in making sure that you don't become a victim yourself. Some prevention or protective habits: watch your mail. And you can set up deed recording alerts. I'm going to talk about what those are in a little more detail a little bit later. Keep your IDs, your driver's license, secure. Use multi-factor authentication on your online accounts. Make sure you're using strong passwords so people can't get more more information about you that can be used against you to steal what you might have. And you want to protect sensitive information and avoid sharing your social security number or IDs casually. These might seem like common sense, but it's important to repeat. Like, this is private information that, if made public, could be used against you to take your stuff. So another way to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of title theft or deed fraud, when I use those terms, they're interchangeable, is learn how to look up your property in your county's deed records. I'm going to show you. Review names, dates, and notary details on recorded documents. If you can't remember something, not everybody has the perfect memory, but if you don't recall that person being involved with your home, that might be a huge red flag to dig into and get a little bit more help understanding. And something else that can help is setting calendar reminders to do these sorts of things. Maybe do it twice a year or once a quarter, 4 times a year. That way you don't have to walk around keeping it all up here. It's something to do. I'm going to do it on the first Saturday in October, and then I'm going to do it again on the first Saturday in April. And it's, set on my calendar, and it pops up and it reminds me to do it, and maybe build in a little checklist that helps you stay on top of it. So how can I check the deed records? Well, I'm glad you asked. You only need about 15 to 30 minutes to do it. And we're not going to take that long today. You need your name and address of the property you're trying to check. You need to go to your county's Central Appraisal District website, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And you need to go to your county clerk's website. So we're going to jump out of the PowerPoint for just a sec. Jump on over to my the browser. Come on now. All right, Nia, could you confirm that you guys can see, the Harris Central Appraisal District's website?
Yes, it's there.
Okay, excellent. So what we have here, and I already have the name and address, written out. I'm going to show you all how to do that, but I wanted to start by saying this is the Harris Central Appraisal District website. This is the first place you're going to want to check this information. And if I'm looking to the side, it's because it's just easier for me to track this information with you on a larger screen. So when you go to this website or insert the name of the county you live in here, you're generally going to search for something called property search. Most counties call it the same thing. Once I click on property search, I'm taken to a screen telling me, okay, the search bar does work. It worked earlier. Now you have the ability to search by account number, owner's name, property address, or business name. I encourage y'all to always search by the property address. That's never going to change. If you're a victim of deed theft, the owner name will change, and you may not know your account number. And the purpose of today's presentation, we're not going to be talking about business property. So focusing on property address, I'm going to type in 6113 West Montgomery. And notice I didn't put a period behind the W. I was playing with this website earlier. If you put a period, it won't work. If you do put a period, it will work. So try a couple of different spellings for the address that you're searching. So we go ahead and click on search. And we just wait while the wheel spins. Part of the reason why this takes a little bit longer, there are somewhere between 4 and 7 million pieces of property in Harris County, and the Harris Central Appraisal District is responsible for having accounts for all of them. So it can take some time to pull up this data. Hopefully it all works. If it doesn't, I already have the screen pulled up. So we searched. Now we have the account number, the name of the property owner, and the address. And you might be wondering, why did I pick this address? Because this woman has been sued and is being prosecuted for deed theft. So I thought her address was fair game.
Oh, I'm not on mute. Sorry.
I didn't want to pick some random person's address because I knew this was going to be recorded. So I
Hey.
thought, you know what? Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? So if you search an address, your home address or any address in Harris County, you will be taken to a page that looks very similar to this. A lot of information here. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I want to show you what we're looking for. We're looking for the legal description. It's on the right-hand side of the page. It might be in different parts of the page if you're in a different county. I live in Fort Bend County. They put the legal description right in the middle. This is on the right-hand side. What does all of this mean? I'm going to explain it to you. So TR stands for tract. 20 tells you which number tract it is. BLK stands for block. The number tells you what block it is. Highland Heights, this is the subdivision that this house is located in. Highland Heights Annex. And then SEC stands for Section 6. Why is this important? Well, if you remember my checklist from the slides, we need about 15 to 30 minutes. We need a name and address, and I got it for y'all. Then we need to start at the CADS website, the Central Appraisal District. Here we are. We go to the CADS website to get this legal description, to then take it to the county deed records. So let's jump on over to the county deed records website. So again, we're in Harris County. I'm going to show you how I got here. If you just search Harris County Clerk's website, you will see this. The elected county clerk is Tanisha Hudspeth. She's the woman in the top left-hand corner. The county clerk's office maintains a lot of different public records. There are court records here, marriage licenses here, death certificates, what have you. What we're looking for are property records. So you click on property and click on real property. You'll be asked to log in eventually. We'll get there. But now I have the ability to, let me blow this up a little bit. I apologize. Now I have the ability to search by a bunch of different little boxes, right? What do I want to search by? Well, I can search by name right here where it says last name, first name under grantor. Grantor is someone who gives or grants rights to a property, someone who's giving away or selling property. That's the grantor. The next box is grantee. That's the person receiving the property. Then we have subdivision or description, instrument type, and some other boxes. Well, thinking about what we got from the Harris Central Appraisal District, here's the subdivision, here's the tract, here's the block, and here's the section. So let's remember this. Tract 20, block 43, section 6 in the Highland Heights Annex. Going back to the county clerk's website, we're in Highland Heights, right? This is the subdivision. We're in lot 43, we're in section 6, and we're in tract 20. Now, the last thing I want to include is you can do first and last name. I like to keep things broad when I start my initial search. Well, we know this person's last name because it's also here. Now, if you're searching for yourself, you obviously know your last name as well. So that's where you're going to want to start. So this person's last name is Martinez. So we're going to take that information and put it under grantor. We're also then going to repeat this search under grantee, and I'll explain why. So Martinez, what we're looking for here when we search grantor, using the legal description oh, sorry, I typed that in the wrong screen. Martinez. When we search under grantor, we're looking for a record of the actual documents for this piece of land located at tract 20, lot 40 or block 40. I put this in the lot. Sorry, block 43, section 6 in Highland Heights. We want to know everything we want that Miss Martinez has granted someone else to that piece of land. So if we click search, the website pulls up and it says, it might be difficult to read, but there are no records found. What this indicates to me is that Miss Martinez or someone with the last name Martinez has not done anything to give away any part of the property. Don't stop there. Let's take the same name, hit this little arrow, and then it moves it from grantor to grantee. We hit search. Now this indicates that there's no records found. Now, what I would encourage you to do is broaden your search. So I'm going to get rid of Highland and hit search again. I was thinking a little bit longer, and it says there's no records found. Now, I anticipated this. Let me jump over to this next screen. I did the exact same search earlier. I tried get rid of that. I searched Martinez as the grantee, so someone who received the property. I searched by Highland, and I only searched by block 43. So instead of by adding more terms like tract 20, section 6, the full name of the subdivision, you're going to narrow your search. I wanted to illustrate, like, by doing a narrow search, you're not going to find anything. And the reason is, and this is not meant to disparage anyone, but what we're doing is searching a database that has human beings entering information. Well, people make mistakes. Someone might misspell the last name Martinez, or they might drop off Heights from Highland Heights, or they might not put annex, or they might not recognize a 6 as a 6. They might recognize it as a, I don't know, a 7 or a 1. If you start out with a broad search, a few less terms, you're probably going to find more information. And then you can always add those terms in to filter things down. So same piece of property, same piece of land, Martinez, block 43, Highland. We see all these records, right? There are, I don't know, about 8 or 9 records for this. Now, what I've already done by looking at these records, I clicked on file date and I've organized them chronologically. Why is that important? They're starting from like the oldest to the most recent. This one is from October 14th. That just so happens to have been 17 years ago, 2008. Using that information, I'm going to cross-reference with what I already know. Going back to the appraisal district website, again, this is the same piece of property. They've got the legal description that helped us start our search. If I scroll down here on the right-hand side, I see that HCAD says the ownership history ties this piece of property to Miss Alba Martinez, October 1st, 2008. Well, that is pretty close to this. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's land, it doesn't move. Why does it need to be pretty close? My point here is, remember what I just said about the data entry that goes into making sure these records are accurate. It's more of an art than a science. These are dedicated staff who are doing their best. No one's perfect. So you can cross-reference these 2 databases to get a pretty good idea of what's going on with this piece of land. And if I wanted to, I can then go and look at all of these different documents, and you might be thinking, well, what do these things mean? These are like a color by number, right? If you remember like those coloring sheets when we were kids, right? One color is number 1, you color that all in red. One color is number 2, you color that all in green. And at the end, you see what the picture looks like. Each one of these documents is a different number, like literally and figuratively. It will help us by looking at each of those things, get a full picture of what's been going on with this piece of land chronologically, starting in 2008, 2013, and so on and so forth. I can tell you, as an attorney, right, I understand the connections. You don't necessarily have to have my level of training to get all of it, but most of it. I can tell you, this is when she got the property, because WD stands for warranty deed. I can also tell you that in May of 2025, this LP stands for Liz Pendens, and the grantor being Harris County means Harris County sued her and wanted everybody to know that they sued her. And then at some point between May and September 2025, they've got rid of or rescinded, that's what this RESCND means, the Liz Pendens, which to me means, at least not my educated guess, that Harris County settled that lawsuit. Now, if you want to know more, just click on these links over here. So let's click on this. It's going to tell me to log in, and you can set up a login for free. You can access these public records for free. And look, here's the deed, right? This is the deed. This is the document, the piece of paper in the chain of title that we talked about earlier, that shows everyone who wants to check the records that this piece of land, lot 20, block 43, in section 6, they put lot, it's really tract. Again, going back to that data entry issue that I talked about, is owned by Alba Martinez. And you can go through the deeds, you can go through each one of these documents and figure that all out. You know, earlier I mentioned, I know that this LP stands for Liz Pendens. Why do I know that? Because I clicked on this and it says notice of Liz Pendens. Now, lawyers know what that means. You don't have to be a lawyer to like search for this information in a legal dictionary, but I know that this means that there's a lawsuit. And in this document, I can see the case number, and I can take that case number and go check other court records, which are public records, to get a fuller picture of what's going on. I can click on this. I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. The rescission, the last document that I found, I click on that and I see notice rescinding Liz Pendens. And you can read through all of this, but the key statement is here. The above legal proceeding is no longer pending. That's code for I'm pretty sure they settled the case. So these are ways that you can search the deed records just with a little bit of information to find out exactly, or at least get a better idea of what's going on. You can take that information, and we're going to jump back to the PowerPoint now. Bear with me one sec. Nia, am I back on or can y'all see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So taking all that information right now, you're taking what looked like a red flag, getting documentation, excuse me, to be able to pull things together to, you know, to use my color by number analogy, have a better idea what the picture looks like. Now that I have a better idea, what do I do with it? Well, we're going to talk about that in a few slides. I want to talk a little bit more about prevention before we get too much farther on. So the QR code here, I used to put links and someone told me I can make them all QR codes. So you're going to see a lot of them. I'm sorry, but the QR code here will take you to the website maintained by the state of Texas, where all licensed notaries have to have records. Why is that important? In order to get a document in the deed records, right, the whole process that I just took you through, Texas law requires the document to be notarized. So in order to be a notary, you have to have gotten licensed and bonded through the state of Texas, through the Secretary of State of Texas. So they have records on all these folks. If a scam artist is either working with a notary who's breaking the law, or has stolen a notary stamp, or has manipulated a notary stamp, this is going to be one of the first ways for you to start to figure out and unwind that scam, is checking the records of his or her licensure so you can reach out to that notary, maybe with the help of an attorney or possibly law enforcement. The goal is to reduce fraud and increase accountability for notaries. So if you were to go to this website, you can search by their name, by the notary's name. And I'm sorry, I'm going to jump back out of the PowerPoint. I wanted to show you all this on the deed. So this is the deed that we pulled up for Miss Alba Martinez. If you go all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to zoom in a bit, right? Here's a notary stamp. And it says it's for Eudulia Cifuentes. Now, this is from 2010. In 2016, the law was changed to say you have to put the notary's name and their license number or their identification number on there. So two ways to search. And the way that would look is you go to the Secretary of State's website. This is, if you follow that QR code, this is where you'll be taken. And you can type in that notary's name and information. So if we were to use EUDULIA, okay, EUDULIA, and then Cifuentes, and click search all notaries, you'll think you might be seeing that little bar go across the top. I promise the page didn't freeze, it's thinking. It will pull up a lot of information, which again, what you're trying to do if you believe you're a victim of fraud or have some inclination that something bad is going on, is get more information so you can make a more educated decision. So I searched Eudulia Cifuentes, and here is a lot of information. Now, I will tell you, just kind of queuing in my mind, right? we looked at 6113 West Montgomery. Well, Miss Cifuentes just lives down the street a couple of blocks. I'm not saying that means there's fraud, but it's like one thing that I'm personally looking out for. And then there's contact information. What's important here is if you have to sue Miss Cifuentes, this is the bonding company that's put money up behind her that you could potentially sue. If she doesn't have money, the bond company does. Now, as a lawyer, I'm not afraid of lawsuits. That's what I help my clients with. I can throw that word around casually. Filing a lawsuit's a lot of time, stress, and money. Hopefully, some of the tools that we talk about later on in the presentation can help you avoid having to go through that process. But if you do that, you want to make sure you're suing someone who can give you the money to fix the problem. And if this person was a bad person and did bad things, but doesn't have any money, well, maybe the Western Surety Company has money to make you whole, to allow you to pay to fix your deed records, to pay to fix, hire an attorney. So this is, again, another source of information maintained by the government that you can use to make a more educated decision. So let's jump back to the slides. So again, the QR code will take you to the same website that I just shared with y'all. You're going to get like 3 more QR codes because I'm just trying to make this as accessible as possible. Other ways to prevent yourself from being scammed. And I'm sorry if I'm repeating some of the things I say. I have a tendency to get ahead of myself in the slides. Sign documents in person when possible and review the full documents. Make sure there's no blanks, right? Look at the front and the back. Generally, real estate documents are one-sided. Excuse me. But you want to make sure there's no blanks there that someone could later manipulate or sign for you, or basically change what you thought you were signing. And keep copies of whatever you sign. Like, don't let someone say, "Oh yeah, I'll email it to you." Like, no, I'll hang out, go to the copy machine. Let's make sure this gets done. Or if they're saying like, "I'll get it to you," and then a couple of days go by, make sure you follow up if this has already happened to you. Don't just sit back and I don't mean to make people sound like everyone's bad, but you got to stand up for yourself if you feel like you're going through this and you're trying to get this information so you can make, again, more informed decision on what to do next. So when selling or refinancing, other ways to prevent fraud, work with a reputable title insurance company. So title insurance companies are regulated by the Texas Department of Insurance. You can go to their website to see who, the state agency has indicated has problems. If you've never heard of the title insurance company before, again, I would search for them on the TDI, the Texas Department of Insurance's website, to make sure that they have a license to provide title insurance services in Texas. Require standard due diligence. What does that mean? Right? If you're buying a house, you're going to be working with a real estate agent. If you're not working with a real estate agent, I encourage you to talk to one and find out, hey, what kind of background research do I need to do on this house, do on a house? If you're working with a mortgage company, that mortgage company is more than likely going to force you to do standard due diligence. That means they're going to ask you a bunch of questions. If you don't know the answer to them, the due diligence is getting the answers to those questions. Don't rush closing, right? If deadlines seem fake, they probably are. If there are real deadlines, try to understand why they're real, what will happen on the other side of that deadline, and then adjust accordingly. Make sure that all money is exchanged through escrow only. Now, that term escrow has a couple of different meanings. If you have a mortgage, it means one thing. We're not going to talk about it. What I'm talking about here, escrow is a type of account that title insurance companies maintain, where if you're buying a house, the buyer puts their money in escrow, and then the seller proves that they own, and then the title insurance company, acting as a third party, then takes the money out of their account and gives it to the seller. So that slows the process down. It allows the title insurance company to do its job of due diligence, and it makes sure that things don't go too fast, because when things can go too fast, that's the opportunity to be scammed. Validate wiring and payment instructions. If those things change, someone's trying to take your money. You don't ever want to be involved in that sort of situation. Now, I apologize about the highlight on this slide. I wrote this in last night and I can't remember why I wrote it, so I'm not going to talk about the highlighted part. Like, I just can't remember why I said coordinate with the Central Appraisal District. But if you've inherited property, and ownership's not clear, like there's not clearly a deed in your name or some court record putting the document in your name, you want to work with an attorney to get that documentation. So your property is no longer tangled up or unclear. You can use affidavits to do these sorts of things. I encourage you not to just Google it. If you need to do this on your own, I encourage you to check out www.texaslawhelp.org. No QR code for that. I'm thinking about better versions of this presentation to do next time, but www.texaslawhelp.org. You can find trusted, vetted legal forms there that you can use to help you document your ownership rights in property, like affidavits of heirship. If you need to prepare an affidavit of heirship, you want to keep your family records current. Make sure that, if you weren't like the unofficial family genealogist, you talk to that aunt or that cousin that did, so that you make sure you have accurate information so that you can clearly document your ownership rights in property. Correct, trusted information that's been verified and notarized can then be put in the deed records to make it clear that I am the owner of this property and no one else is going to take it from me.
You
Some things
probably had, Amir, that part was probably highlighted because of the airship exemption.
Yes, that sounds right. I just don't want to. It's not fully formed thought, but thank you, Nia. Other things to think about: if you own, vacant property, vacant land, or rental property, talk to your neighbors. Talk to your neighbors. They're going to see suspicious stuff. They'll call you. I don't own any vacant land or rental properties, but I've had clients who did prior, and they've indicated like, hey, my neighbor told me this thing was happening, or I've done presentations like this where it was the neighbor that was like the first red flag. Also, you want to monitor your property's utility records and mail. What do I mean by that? Well, earlier I talked about if someone tries to scam and steal the deed to your property and they change the name of who owns it, they're going to contact the tax office. They're going to contact the water company, make sure those bills get mailed to them. And if you don't notice them coming to you, or if you get a copy of them, maybe you log in online, and you see, hey, this is, not my name. That's another red flag, something to think about and take steps to prevent this issue from getting worse. Another ways to do that is make sure your mail is forwarded and maintain your up-to-date records on everything associated with your property. So I talked about ways to set up fraud alerts. So you can scan this QR code. You'll be taken to a KPRC Channel 2, that's local news in Houston, website where the reporter has already pulled all of this information together for Houston area counties that offer free fraud prevention alerts. So what that means is if you're in like Galveston County or Brazoria County or Montgomery County, notice I'm not saying Harris County. I'm going to come to that in a second. Or Fort Bend County. The county clerks will let you know if something has been recorded in the deed records that impacts your property if you sign up for these alerts. Harris County, because it's so large, is working on it. This summer, the Chronicle reported that the county clerk is aware of the issue. The county clerk is working on setting up a fraud alert, but as of today, when I was finishing this presentation, they do not have a system set up yet. If and when they do, I'll definitely share that if we do this presentation in the future. But if you follow that QR code, you'll be taken to the KPRC Channel 2 report. I believe it's from late last year. And if you live in Fort Bend, Brazoria, Galveston, Montgomery, and then there's several others, but just not Harris, the ability to set up fraud alerts is already there, and it's free, and it's offered through your local county clerk's office. So if you're targeted, contact the county clerk's office immediately. They may be able to help you, stop the bleeding. They might not be able to fix it for you. They, work for the government, not for you. You want to contact your local district attorney's office and file a criminal complaint because someone is stealing. This is against the law. It's not just a quote unquote civil legal issue. You may want to contact your local county attorney's office. No, excuse me. Now, what do I mean? In bigger counties like Harris County, where we have the city of Houston, you have a district attorney who focuses on criminals and and prosecuting crimes. Whereas you have a county attorney that handles the civil business of the county, but also may have some scam prevention, protecting homeowners or consumers, people, residents of the county more generally, the civil side of county government. In Harris County, we have both. Not every county has both, but by contacting the district attorney and or the county attorney's office, you'll be taking additional steps to protect yourself if you've been targeted. Then you want to do the deed record search, right? Starting with your name and address, and then searching the county appraisal district, and then searching the deed records to start to document the timeline of the fraud. And if anyone contacts you and you suspect scam, don't communicate with them, right? It's them trying to get more information that can be then used against you to perpetuate this fraud. So what can you do next? So here's another QR code about a law that is, it's like, like 6 weeks old. It went into effect on November 1st. It's the law was Senate Bill 1734. If you scan the QR code, it will literally take you to the text of the law. It's that new. It makes it easier and less expensive to challenge deed fraud. For example, if you want to file a lawsuit in the state of Texas, you're going to have to pay a filing fee to the county clerk's or to the clerk's office. That filing fee could be a couple $100. It could be $350. It could be a little lower. This waives the fee when you're trying to challenge deed fraud. So it makes the court system more accessible to folks who have been, through no fault of their own, victims of, a bad actor. Now, candidly, this law is 6 weeks old. I have not used it on behalf of one of my clients, so I can't tell you how well or badly it works, but I know the intent behind it is to make things better for all Texans. Another law, another QR code. This is Senate Bill 647, which again is about 6 weeks old. It was designed to provide more protections to Texas homeowners who want to challenge deed theft. So it's done a couple of things, which I've split over the next 2 slides. It's expanded the authority of county and district attorneys who can refuse to record a deed if the filer can't prove that it's legitimate. It also requires county clerks to notify the last known owner of a piece of property if the new document has a different address for the grantor. Remember, grantor is the person giving away the property right. So if I'm Amir Bafroui and I own 123 Main Street, and then someone records a deed where Amir Bafroui is giving away 123 Main Street, but it lists my mailing address as, someplace in Galveston, that should cue under this new law the county clerk to say, we need to notify Mr. Bafroui. Now, I don't know what the notification process looks like. Again, this law is 6 weeks old, but this is a step in the right direction to make sure that government is helping folks protect themselves. And finally, fraud prevention. It allows and empowers the county clerks to reject suspicious property documents when there's some evidence of fraud, and they must notify both the person listed as the grantor, so the person giving away the property, and the grantee, the person who's supposed to receive the property when that filing is flagged. Again, because it's new, I don't know what exactly this looks like, but I wanted y'all to know about this law. Now, the QR code on this slide and the prior slide take you to the exact same place, the actual text of Senate Bill 647, showing that this law passed the legislature and became effective on September 1st. So an overview of how to contest a fraudulent filing, a fraudulent recording, a fake deed, scamming you out of your home. Work with your county clerk's office. They have expanded powers under Senate Bill 647, Senate Bill 1734. Report the issue to law enforcement and your local district attorney's office. Check your credit report and financial statements. If someone's trying to scam you out of your house, you may have become a victim of identity theft, and someone may be trying to scam you by running up your credit cards or taking your money from your bank account. So you're really going to want to go back to some of those initial steps on strengthening your passwords, having two-factor or multi-factor authentication to make sure that your whole financial life is protected. And then finally, you're going to want to consult with a lawyer about legal options to clean up ownership and how you can work with that lawyer to cancel fraudulent documents. So once you've hired that lawyer, if that's the route that you have to go, here are some remedies, some solutions that are available in civil court, right? You can file a lawsuit, and what your goal is when you file a lawsuit is, I want a court order. I want a judge to say, I win. Well, what does the win look like? You have a piece of paper from a judge, which is recognized under Texas law, saying you're the owner, you're the rightful owner of this property. And that piece of paper, that fraud, we're calling it fraud. It's all written out here. And then that document, that judgment can be put in the deed records as part of that chain of title, right? We're working our way right back to the first part of the presentation to make it clear, like, hey, if you look at all these pieces of paper and you see that one that looks a little suspicious, here's the judgment that says it's not worth it, not literally worth the paper it's written on. And this is on the judgment, that's who's the true owner. You go to court, everything's fleshed out. There's a lot of sunshine put on the thing, put on the situation, and a judge will be able to write it all out or sign it all out for you in a fleshed out judgment. If you're in the middle of a dispute and maybe the scam artist is trying to have you evicted or they're trying to sell the property out from under you, you can get a court order called an injunction or a restraining order to stop it. It's hard to discover these things before they happen, but you can stop them from getting worse. It's difficult to get an injunction or a restraining order by yourself without the help of a lawyer. I'm not trying to tell y'all to all hire lawyers for every single problem, but when you're navigating the court system, if you don't speak legalese, my terms, is very difficult to get around, the judicial system. But these rights and remedies do exist to help protect our biggest investments in our life. Another thing you saw when we went through the deed records is record what's called a notice of lis pendens. Don't ask me what lis pendens means. I know what it does. It's Latin. And what it does, it's a piece of paper you put in the deed records to tell the whole world, anybody who checks the deed records for that piece of property, there's a fight going on over this property and it's a fight going on in the court records. Check this case number, get more information. As you notice, like when we checked the deed records for Miss Martinez, we saw, well, there's a case number where Harris County has sued Miss Martinez. Let's go check those court records and figure out exactly what's going on. It's more due diligence. It's making someone who might want to buy that property take a pause. It's it's a document that you could take to court if someone's trying to evict you to say, look, Your Honor, there's a whole lot going on here that you may not know about. Please pause this eviction. So how can I gather the evidence? What documentation do I need to have together on a checklist to really be able to bolster my situation, right? I did nothing wrong and bad people are trying to do bad things to me. Full copies of all important documents from the deed records. That's why I went through the process of how to check those, right? You need your name and address. You need to go to the Central Appraisal District, and then you work your way through the deed records. It might take 15 to 30 minutes. I don't encourage you to do this on your phone. I got a big screen on here, but this process can be frustrating on a smaller screen. I encourage you to do it on a computer. You can also go to the county clerk's office. I've personally never done that. I've always done it on the computer, so your mileage may vary. If you find something suspicious, it's going to be notarized. Use the resources I've provided you, right? Check that notary's licensing information. If you plug it in there and you get some records, print them out. Take screenshots, preserve it so that you can use it later if you have to go through the court process. You have evidence. Pull together examples of your signatures or any documents that have been signed by if there's forged documents where it's you want examples of your signature to show that these are forgeries. Excuse me, these are forgeries. If there's forged documents where it's a loved one, pull together examples of that loved one's signatures, right? You're going to compare those signatures to the other ones. If you have to go to court, there may be a handwriting expert that gets involved and looks at everything with a fine-tooth comb and magnifying glass. This is evidence to prove that the fraud has been perpetuated. It's your word plus the documents plus additional records. Now, I say all of this as an experienced real estate attorney. I do this for my clients every single day. If this seems like it's too much for you to handle, you can hire a title company to ask them to gather some of these documents, not necessarily everything, but some, or a private investigator or a lawyer who can do all of these things. The thing is, these generally aren't done for free, right? Not everybody's legal aid, and legal aid can't help everybody, but there are third-party services that can help you get this information. And finally, if you live in Harris County, the Harris County Attorney's Office has set up a website, which you can find at this QR code, to report suspected deed fraud and title scams. And as you saw in the deed records, when we checked, 6113 West Montgomery, they do file lawsuits to stop bad people from doing bad things. I'm not familiar with the terms of the settlement in that case. It appears that the case is settled, but the county attorney's office got these reported. They saw the scam was being done. They took steps to stop it. If you feel like you've been a victim of that, this is free resource out there, so you can let your local government officials know and see if they can help you. And there you have it. I hope I didn't scare y'all, right? My goal is not to frighten us into doing nothing, but empower and educate us into knowing what our rights are and what resources exist. Sometimes it can feel like, well, now I got one more thing to do. Got to go to work, got to take care of my kids, got to get dinner ready, and now I got to check the deed records a couple of times a year. But now I know that can seem frustrating, but now you know it, right? Rather than just hearing about this on the local news and thinking, well, that'll never happen to me, or, oh my gosh, that happened to my neighbor. What can I do? You have this. And if you forget, you can watch the recording on YouTube and refresh your memory. And hopefully my guidance has been clear. And I appreciate y'all's time and attention. Thanks.
I'm sorry, I was just talking. I was going back to the chat to see. I know there was a question here. Um, what are the financial requirements for, oh, well, I know it's income based or asset based. They were asking about the requirements to apply for Lone Star.
Bear with me. So that's a great thing to ask. We have income, asset, and citizenship requirements. So income, folks cannot make more than 200% of the federal poverty line. For a single human, not human, I'm sorry, single household, pardon me, a single person household, that's about $19,000 gross. Now, I encourage folks to apply because there's exceptions to that rule, but that's the general income requirement. The other thing is a single person can't have more than $10,000 in assets, so cash. That does not count your car or your home or a lot of the stuff that we own in Texas. But if you have, a retirement account with substantial assets, or well, and not even a retirement account. Actually, we're allowed to exempt that under Texas law. But $10,000 cash in a bank account, generally you won't be eligible for our services. But there's exceptions to that as well. And finally, you need to be either a U.S. citizen, a green card holder, or lawfully in the country. There are very limited exceptions to that. Generally, you have to be a victim of domestic violence or international trafficking. Those are exceptionally rare, but most of our clients are either green card holders or citizens who are working poor or disabled, or senior citizens who don't have substantial cash savings.
Okay. There was another question that had been sent to me earlier too, in regards to the option to put your property in a trust. Will a trust help protect your property against scams or fraud?
It could, candidly, I've never helped someone put their property into a trust, but like to get it out of the trust, the trustee who controls the trust would have to sign it over. And a trustee's signature could be forged, a notary stamp could be forged. So it's one additional layer. If someone's motivated to do a bad thing, they're going to find their way through that layer. It's not like a 100% protection.
Mm-hmm. Is there any statutes or anything that's coming up about certain information that they make public record, as opposed to creating new laws that actually makes more work for the property owner or the person that's actually been scammed? I mean, because it seems to me, and this relates to a question: why are people allowed to access and see detailed property tax record anyway, which leads to fraud? So considering that the laws that are being made are just making it that much harder for the average consumer. If I were to get frauded against or have some or be some kind of victim of scam, I'm the one that has to go through all of the legality, the paperwork, the hiring of the attorney, more money, more time to prove that I'm the one that's been victimized versus allowing people to have access to all that information in the first place.
I forgot your question.
Is there anything, or is that even something that's under consideration as far as laws or statutes or anything like that, was limiting the amount of information that becomes public record versus making more laws that requires more work for us?
Yeah. So there are additional protections that have been created, right? The two Senate bills that I mentioned are expanding the rights of the government clerks to be able to challenge documents, because before, government clerks kind of thought they were in the position of, if the document is notarized, I have to accept it. I can't question it. And that's a situation that could be abused and has been abused, right? That's where a lot of title thought fraud has been able to slip through. Additionally, you had the other Senate bill that created a right where they've gotten rid of some of the costs of having to file a lawsuit to fix this bad thing. Outside of that, the question I think that's being asked is more is I don't know the answer to. That's
It was rhetorical, I guess. I mean, I'm not Amir. You go and solve this problem.
it's more of like, talk to your legislators, right? Like,
Yeah.
these Texas senators and Texas congressmen and women pass these laws in response to people being victims of these frauds. So if we want to make the system better, just reach out to them.
Okay. Does filing a TOD or a transfer on death deed make people more susceptible to fraud as well?
I would say no. I'll be candid, like, this is an educated guess. TODs are transfer on death deeds are legitimate real estate documents designed to help people with their estate planning. That's a great thing because it lowers the costs for your heirs to keep the property in the family. They don't have to go to probate court. They don't have to hire a lawyer. They're going to save several thousands of dollars. But the downside is you've now made public records of who you want to have the house, and more information can be used against you by bad people. So is it something that's going to make you more susceptible to a scam? Maybe. And I don't mean to make this simple, but like, bad people are going to look for easy targets to do bad things. TOD doesn't necessarily make you an easy target, but it could be potentially used against you. I don't want to say that and say you should never use a transfer on death deed. I use a transfer on death deed for my house. The best ways to protect yourself are really to use some of that monitoring process that I described. Check the deed records a couple of times a year. It only takes 15 to 30 minutes.
Most definitely. Because I know after I had filed a TOD, but the beneficiary had actually started receiving information about selling my property.
Oh my God.
Like, are you interested? Investors are looking for properties, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm not even dead yet. And you're asking them to, if they want to sell my property. Like, my goodness. I don't know if they think mostly seniors are the ones that actually file TODs as opposed to somebody that could be looked at as younger, and they may be thinking that, what I mean? So that actually becomes an issue too. I had sat in on a presentation once where it was the bankers that had actually gotten involved with the different scams and things that were going on. And um, uh, they basically said that there was an issue or a scam where volunteers at a senior facility were volunteering that was in partnership with somebody at a title company. The volunteers would go into these senior facilities and watch and monitor who comes and goes, who receives visitors and things of that nature. For the people that don't get visitors at the nursing home or the seniors facilities, they would target those people and then find out if they actually own property. And they became more susceptible because they felt like, no family members were actually coming in and seeing about them and paying attention to anything that was going on, and scamming them into signing over over their property. And the person at the title company that they were in cahoots with was electronically filing these documents, and they were stealing people's properties. So if you guys have family members or neighbors or whomever are in nursing home care, go visit these folks, because you never know who's watching them, or how they're going to become victims of this kind of fraud and scams and things like that. It is quite horrible, but it does happen. So don't just drop off your loved ones and kind of leave them and then never go and actually see them and check on them, because people, they could fall victim to being prey at any time, and not even just being in nursing homes. You got folks that are at home by themselves, and folks will come knocking on the door or calling their phone, and and scamming them and giving them information out to people all the time, and they don't know, they just want people to talk to, and you never know who's calling them. So check on them too, just to see, what kind of phone calls are you getting, what's coming in your mail, what are you signing up for, what are you actually accessing? Because unfortunately, the older that you do get, sometimes your mental faculties are not necessarily always there. You're a little bit more trusting, and you can easily fall victim to that kind of a situation too. So yeah, look out for your loved ones and your a lot of your seniors too, because they could be signing some things that they don't even have a clue as to what they're even signing as well. There were the questions about the link of this recording. I will be sending out, and we will post it on YouTube. So it'll be the Zoom recording as well as the link for the YouTube page. It will all go out to you guys. All of the QR codes, I was scanning all the QR codes as we were going. So all the links for all of these slide presentations will also be included on the email that I send out to everybody as well. So in case you did not get it, and I know some folks said that they were writing notes and wanted you to go a little bit slower, you'll receive all the information as well too. So yes, Ms. Marla, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'm curious to know whether it's allowed for us to post a link to the recording on Nextdoor.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I find this whole subject very frightening, and I would love to share that information with the Southeast Houston area where I live.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Please do. Please feel free to do so. If any of the recordings for any of the presentations that we send out, if you guys know of somebody else that could find the information to be beneficial, absolutely. Please pay it forward and share, because a lot of folks still don't know about this kind of thing and some of the other subject matters that we provide. So most definitely, please do share. And if they have questions, if they want to call, if they want to come to a live presentation, if this is something you all would like to see again or need more information about, I'll be happy to include this maybe on a quarterly basis or so, Amir, and see how it goes. So we've done it twice this year. This is our second. So every 6 months versus quarter, something, that feedback from the people in the community is very much so needed. So that way we are aware of what you guys want and what it is that you need. In fact, there will be a quick link that comes up on the Zoom screen as soon as the presentation is over, asking basically for that input as well. So if there are other presentations that we don't currently offer that you guys need more information about, or that you want information about, then please let us know. That helps us in planning for future presentations or other outreach events and things like that too.
I definitely think it's important for it to be repeated, because those of us who live in Harris County at this point have no protection.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I completely understand. Completely understand. All right. I think those were all the questions that I had. And I don't see anything else. Again, if you guys are in need of any civil legal assistance, we do encourage you to reach out and apply for the services. Do not automatically discount yourself and automatically assume that you won't be eligible for various services, civil legal services that are available to you. we do encourage you to reach out so that you can get some kind of assistance. I will also include the number for legal lines, as well as Houston Lawyer Referral Service, which is a branch of the Houston Bar Association, where they have vetted attorneys. If you guys are interested in hiring an attorney or need to hire an attorney, then you have the opportunity to do that with vetted attorneys from the Lawyer Referral Service. Did I understand correctly that you will email the link to review the presentation? I had trouble logging in and Mr. Yes, Mr. Bartell, yes, I will definitely be sending out the link of the recording for you to go back and watch the presentation again, along with the link of the YouTube channel if you want to go to the YouTube channel to watch as well. Okay. Does this fall under estate law?
If you're looking for a lawyer to hire you with this, sorry, if you're looking to hire a lawyer to help you with this situation, if you have been a victim of real estate scams or title fraud, generally going to want to hire a lawyer with either commercial litigation experience, that's code for I know how to sue people, or real estate lawyer, which means I know what to do with, when I read the paperwork that I walked y'all through, I know what it means. An estate planning lawyer might know. I'd be more comfortable with like commercial litigator or real estate lawyer, solving your problem.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? You're welcome. All right. Amir, thank you very, very much. I really, really appreciate it. Again, even though this was a little bit more personal in nature for me because of the experience that a really good friend of mine had and her grandmother, I know that this was a viable topic for a lot of people, but it was something you probably just never think about because it's something, and that you, and we had that conversation in one of the previous presentations as well. It's something that you don't think about until it's actually happening to you. So it's not something that you think about actually presenting or something that could be helpful. Again, which is why the feedback from the community members like yourself is very important, that it could be something that we are completely overlooking that's going on out there that we don't know about. If you guys, again, would let us know, then we'll be happy to make sure that we do a little digging and see if we can get some information provided to you all. So with that being said, thank you again, Amir, and the partnership with Lone Star Legal Aid as part of the collaboration for A Month of Service has been outstanding. So thank y'all very much. Thank you to all of our participants who continue to support A Month of Service and come back and watch our presentations. Or if you're new to the presentation, we want to thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you all again soon. You will be here later on this month to talk about the mortgage foreclosure. If you want to talk a little bit about that really quick, just give that little commercial.
Sure. Either me or one of my colleagues at Lone Star Legal Aid, Thursday after next, so October 23rd,
23rd.
we'll be speaking about helping people understand the rights and responsibilities with purchase money mortgages. So that's the loan that you took to buy your house, home equity loans, reverse mortgages, and also what are called contract for deeds or executory contracts. It's like a alternative form of purchasing homes. Rights and responsibilities, how to avoid foreclosure, and what foreclosure in those situations looks like.
Mhm. Okay. And then tomorrow at 1 p.m. via Zoom, we have our maintaining and adding value to your home. So if there are some renovations, some additions and things like that that you're interested in doing, and what does that actually do for your appraisal value, which could potentially increase your property tax values, you definitely want to tune in for that. And then next week, we also have our property tax presentation from the Harris Central Appraisal District and the County Tax Assessor Collector's Office. And they will also touch on the heirship exemptions and what the process is for filing an affidavit of heirship to claim those exemptions if you are heirs to property. So and then someone from Lone Star will also be doing our eviction presentation on Tuesday. So that's on the 21st. And all of these are via Zoom at 1 p.m. So definitely want to join in for that. I will be sending out a copy of our calendar for this month as I'm working on next month's calendar as well. So that will all be included. All right. Thank y'all again very much. You all have a wonderful remainder of your afternoon. You all stay safe, take care of yourselves, and we will see y'all next time. Thank you, Amir.